And there's the three.
The bigs are stepping out.
Hesselsoder at 6'4", rookie out of Germany.
The soft glow of a bedside lamp cast a gentle halo across the pale pink walls of a modest bedroom in West Des Moines, Iowa, where 8-year-old Caitlin Clark sat cross-legged on her neatly tucked bed, her face set in that kind of fierce concentration that only children possess when they believe utterly in the significance of the moment before them. Her small fingers clutching a purple glitter gel pen that glided across the pages of a diary with a pink, heart-shaped lock dangling from its side. The ink staining the paper with words that, though seemingly innocent and childlike, would carry the weight of prophecy. "Dear Diary," she scrawled in her uneven but determined handwriting. "Today I watched Maya Moore play on television, and she is the most amazing basketball player ever. I will meet her someday and tell her she is my hero. I promise." It was a promise whispered into the stillness of a winter night in February 2010, the kind of simple declaration that most would dismiss as the fanciful dreaming of a child too young to grasp the gulf between imagination and reality. And yet within those sentences lay a power that neither Caitlin nor anyone in her family could have fully understood at the time. For what begins as fantasy has a curious way of hardening into faith when it is combined with relentless effort, sacrifice, and the rare alchemy of destiny. The television she had watched that evening had broadcast Maya Moore, then a senior at the University of Connecticut, dazzling the court with her effortless movements, commanding the respect of teammates, coaches, and fans alike, her name already etched into conversations as one of the greatest to ever play the women's game. But for little Caitlin, the magic was not in Moore's statistics or accolades. It was in the possibility she represented, proof that a woman could not only participate in them, sports she loved but dominated, inspire crowds, and earn admiration that rivaled any male counterpart. That night, Caitlin's eyes had glistened with a mixture of awe and yearning, and when she closed her diary and placed it carefully in her bedside drawer, she carried with her not only the excitement of having found a hero, but also the unshakable seed of her own destiny, planted quietly yet firmly in her heart. 3 years later, while tidying her daughter's room, and Clark stumbled upon the diary, the little lock broken from overuse, the pages worn from countless nightly secrets scribbled in pinks, purples, and blues. But it was that one entry that made her pause, her eyes scanning the words again and again as a lump rose in her throat, because in that earnest, straightforward declaration, "I will meet her someday," she recognized something profound, a determination that seemed too powerful to be brushed off as childish fancy. Instead of laughing or gently tucking the book back where she had found it, and instinctively knew that this moment mattered, that it was a glimpse into the very core of who her daughter was becoming. She photographed the page with her phone, saving it carefully in a folder she would later title Caitlin's Dreams, a silent act of preservation by a mother who understood that sometimes the things children whisper into the night are not wishes to be forgotten but roadmaps for the future. From that day forward, and began quietly following Maya Moore's career with the Minnesota Lynx in the WNBA, not simply as a fan but as a guardian of her daughter's dream, a mother keenly aware of how vital it was for young girls to see themselves reflected in the greatness of others and how role models could shape the trajectory of a child's ambition. She went so far as to write letters to Moore's management team, humbly explaining the depth of Caitlin's admiration and asking, almost apologetically, if there might ever be an opportunity for them to meet, though she knew such a chance was slim. For Moore was not only a superstar but increasingly elusive as she became known not just for her dominance on the court but also for her commitments off it, dedicating herself to causes of social justice and stepping away from basketball altogether at the peak of her career to fight for reform and justice in the American legal system. Still, and held on to the hope, as mothers often do, that life had a way of weaving miracles through patience and perseverance. Meanwhile, Caitlin was carving her own path in basketball with the kind of hunger that made her stand out from other children her age. By the time she was 12, her style of play had begun to mirror, almost eerily, that of her idol. She was a point guard with extraordinary court vision, a sharpshooter with confidence beyond her years, a leader who elevated those around her, And just as Maya Moore had been hailed as a prodigy in her teenage years, so too was Caitlin beginning to attract attention across Iowa and beyond. Coaches whispered her name in admiration, parents marveled at her range and poise, and scouts began to scribble notes about the girl from West Des Moines who played as though she had been born for the spotlight. What Caitlin did not know, and what would only be revealed years later, was that Maya Moore herself had already become aware of her. Through a chain of coincidences and quiet conversations within the tight-knit world of women's basketball, Moore had heard about a precocious young girl from Iowa who idolized her, who played with a fearless heart, and who wrote in her diary about meeting her someday. Intrigued, and perhaps sensing the unique echo of her own journey in this child's story, Maya began following Caitlin's career from afar, watching highlights when she could, reading articles about her rise through high school competitions, and marveling at the familiar intensity in her eyes, the same flame that had once driven Maya as a teenager chasing her own impossible dreams. When Caitlin reached high school, the parallels became almost uncanny. Like Moore, she was relentless in training, sometimes practicing late into the night under the dim lights of empty gyms, her breath echoing against the rafters as she shot three after three, refusing to leave until she was satisfied. She carried her team on her shoulders in critical games, commanding not just attention but belief, making those around her play better simply by being on the court. Her reputation grew, her name becoming synonymous with greatness in the making, and yet she remained grounded, her heart still tethered to that childhood diary entry, though by now the words had faded slightly on the page, smudged from years of being handled, read, and reread. And, still holding the secret photograph of the diary entry, watched with equal parts awe and tenderness as her daughter blossomed, always remembering that tiny declaration scrawled in purple gel pen, the one that had started it all. By the time Caitlin was preparing for university, her story had already begun inspiring younger athletes across Iowa, girls who saw in her a symbol of what was possible, just as Caitlin had once seen in Maya Moore a living embodiment of magic. What nobody outside a very small circle knew was that forces were quietly converging to bring the two women together. A former coach of Moore's, aware of N's letters and Caitlin's deep admiration, reached out to her in late 2018, hinting that an opportunity might arise for a meeting if the timing aligned, though he kept details deliberately vague. For Caitlin, who by then was already a household name among basketball enthusiasts, the idea of meeting her hero remained distant, too fragile to articulate for fear of disappointment. She played on, focusing instead on the goals immediately before her, winning games, perfecting her craft, proving herself against the best. And then, in 2019, the threads finally wove themselves together in a way that felt almost orchestrated by destiny. At an event celebrating women in sport, Caitlin, by then a rising star whose name was circulating far beyond Iowa, was told she would have the opportunity to meet several professional athletes. She walked into the room with her usual composure, the same calm confidence she carried on the court, but when she saw Maya Moore standing there, taller, radiant, her presence commanding yet warm, her breath caught in her chest. For a moment, she was no longer the poised competitor, but once again the wide-eyed 8-year-old scribbling in her diary under the glow of her bedside lamp. The encounter unfolded with a kind of magic that words can scarcely capture. Caitlin's eyes brimmed with tears as she managed to say, almost whispering, "You're my hero," the very phrase she had promised herself she would speak aloud someday. Maya, moved in a way she had not anticipated, embraced her tightly, confessing that she had been following Caitlin's career for years, watching her grow, cheering her on quietly from the shadows, waiting for the day when their paths would cross. Both women cried, the moment charged with an almost sacred significance, as if time itself bent to honor the fulfillment of a prophecy written in a little girl's diary nearly a decade earlier. That meeting was more than just the collision of idol and admirer. It was the beginning of a mentorship, a bond that would shape Caitlin's journey in profound ways. Maya, though retired from the sport by then, imparted wisdom that extended far beyond basketball, lessons about resilience, sacrifice, faith, and using one's platform for greater good. Caitlin, in turn, offered Maya something just as powerful: the reassurance that her legacy lived on, not only in trophies or records, but in the dreams of young athletes who carried the torch forward. The two women remained connected, their relationship deepening with time, and as Caitlin's star continued to rise, she often credited Moore as not just an inspiration, but as a guiding presence, a mentor who had shown her that greatness was not merely about performance on the court, but about the courage to lead, to inspire, and to give back. The story, which might have seemed unbelievable had it been scripted for film, spread quietly at first, and then more widely, touching hearts far beyond the world of basketball. It became a testament to the extraordinary power of mentorship, to the way small childhood dreams, when nurtured and believed in, can grow into realities that ripple outward to inspire countless others. Caitlin Clark's diary entry had not only predicted her own journey, but had also revealed a truth about human connection, that the
being guarded by Melissa Smith. Smith swats it away. Opens it up for Canada. James stays with her.
Both Maya Moore and Caitlin Clark shared an innate ability that set them apart from the ordinary, a rare gift to elevate those around them, to make their teammates better simply by stepping onto the court, and both carried within them that extraordinary balance of fierce competitiveness and genuine humility that has always been the mark of the most special athletes. As Caitlin progressed through youth leagues and into her high school career, the comparisons to Maya Moore became more frequent, no longer spoken as casual compliments, but with a weight of recognition, as though people sensed that something larger was unfolding, that history was beginning to rhyme across generations. Yet no one could have predicted what happened next. In 2019, at a moment when Caitlin was a senior in high school, already committed to play for the University of Iowa, and on the cusp of becoming a household name in women's basketball, Maya Moore made an announcement that sent shockwaves through the sporting world. At the very height of her career, with championship rings, MVP titles, and global acclaim to her name, Maya stepped away from professional basketball to focus entirely on criminal justice reform and social activism. The decision was met with disbelief, admiration, and confusion in equal measure, but it also created an unexpected opening, a space in which connection and mentorship could flourish. Maya, suddenly freed from the relentless demands of professional sport, devoted her time to speaking engagements, grassroots outreach, and advocacy. And it was during this period that a letter from Clark, one among the hundreds that crossed her team's desk each month, caught her attention. Something about the story of an 8-year-old girl in Iowa who had once written in her diary that she would meet her hero and who had since grown into one of the brightest young players in the country, struck a chord with Maya in a way that surprised even herself. Perhaps it was the purity of that child's dream, untouched by cynicism, or perhaps it was the faint echo